This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Wednesday, February 15th, 2006, and this is episode number 62 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm Matt Hochberg from MGMstudios.org. On the show today, our panel includes Mike Scopa, trip planning guru extraordinaire. Welcome, Mike.
Stupid Judy, stupid Judy, stupid Judy, stupid Judy.
Thanks, Alan. And Len Testa, co-author of the Unofficial Guide to Walt Disney World book, which is available at fine bookstores everywhere. Is here. Welcome, Len.
And also the less reputable ones, too. Yeah.
Also available at shady bookstores nationwide.
You know, sort of the borderline places, you know.
And for Mouse World Radio, we have Mike Newell. Welcome, Mike.
I could be found at some of those shady bookstores, thank you.
Yeah, let me rephrase that.
It's Wednesday, which means it's our question shows, and in fact, all the shows we're doing in the month of February are going to be question shows. So if you'd like your question answered, email us at questions@wdwtoday.com, and we might just answer it for you.
Yay.
Our first question comes from Lori, who writes, "What are your top 5 tips for first-timers going to Walt Disney World in the summer, July of 2006? I have a coworker that has been to Walt Disney World once on her honeymoon, but is now taking her 6-year-old daughter. I want to help her with this trip planning, but I am having trouble. I don't want to overwhelm her with info and tips. Thank you." Well, I'm going to say first, before we go, I just say that I believe, Mike Scopa, we did a show, me and you, about planning a trip for a first-timer a while ago. I can't remember the episode number, but Laura, you might want to check the show archives for that show. But let's go ahead and top 5 tips for Disney World in the summertime. My first is don't go, but what are some of your others?
Summertime. My tip would be go early in the morning. Make very good use of extra magic hours. Make sure that you're out of the parks before the noon hour. Spend the hours of 12 to 4 indoors if you can. Relax and stay out of the sun between those hours, and then go back to the parks late afternoon, early evening, so you can enjoy it. Otherwise, you're going to have a real tough time enjoying the night hours. That would be one of my main tips.
What?
Yeah, I've got 4. One obviously is sunscreen. The UV index in Florida in July is a 10 almost every day on a scale of 1 to 10, and nothing gets done if you have sunburn. So definitely, sunscreen is the way to go. 2, hydrate. That means carrying around bottles of water with you all the time. Here's a quick tip, Lori. Use the same bottle every day and fill it up at water fountains. I mean, water at Disney is like $2 a pop, and that can get to be expensive. So usually I carry the same bottle around, or I'll buy 1 bottle a day and just keep refilling it. For those of you who don't like to carry the same bottle around. 3rd, like Mike said, afternoon break is definitely the way to go. Number 1, it's going to get you out of the sun during the hottest part of the day. Number 2, that's also the most crowded time of the day. There's nothing worse than being in 95-degree weather with 100 million other people, standing in line. So if you can avoid that at all possible, do so. Might be a good time to take a nap or head to the pool for a quick dip. 4th thing I would say is definitely get dinner reservations somewhere. This is going to do 2 things for you. Number 1 is dinner reservations imply somewhere air-conditioned and seated, and that's a good thing. And 2, you want to make sure that you're not waiting in line with other people to get those dinner reservations, or to eat dinner. So reservations are a must there. And I think we're now at the point where you could do that for July, right? Oh yeah, we're well into the 180-day window for July. Definitely get the reservations there.
My last tip is to master the Superman pose, where you stand with your legs apart, hands on your hips, thus avoiding any possible contact between one part of your body and another.
Yeah, exactly.
I just thought
we were saying something about Commando touring. We weren't talking about going all out, right?
Exactly.
I thought of
not wearing underwear. Yeah.
I got a couple more, Matt. I just thought of them. Number 1, if you're not Len Testa and you are interested in a daytime parade, what you want to do is you want to set up shop on the west side of the route so that you've got the sun to your back and hopefully you're in the shade. Number 2, if you're going to see any outdoor shows, you want to do them before noon, before the sun gets up there. And number 3, and I know I'm going to hear from people on this, just do, if you really want to do the Animal Kingdom, just do it in the morning because that park can get really, really humid and really, really hot in the afternoon during the summer months.
Well, there's nothing to do in Animal Kingdom, so you should be done by about noontime anyway, Mike.
Yeah, I figure 10, I figure 10.
Right.
Well, I'll keep my mouth shut about it.
Why is it that park is so hot?
You know,
Or
we
it
should,
seems
you
so
know what we should
hot.
do? We should bring digital thermometers in there to see how much hotter it actually is. I might get the researchers to do that in March.
That would be a great idea because it
Because of
always
the
seems...
vegetation. Maybe because of the so
Yeah,
much.
I think it has something to do with the vegetation and then the I was going to say proximity of water, but all the parks have water around them, so.
Yeah. Well, our next question comes from Glenn, who writes, your last podcast discussed the idea of a hotel guest being able to get a fast pass or several fast passes just for being a guest of a hotel of the resort. Well, a friend and coworker of mine spent Christmas at Disneyland and was providing fast passes by the hotel for the next day. So the idea is at least being tested. He thought it was great, in case anyone was wondering about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I would be shocked if they didn't do it sometime this year. In Disney, they're putting digital TV in there because we mentioned, which is one of the key components of it. So I would be shocked if it didn't happen.
Well, Richard from Williamstown, Massachusetts writes, I'm going to Walt Disney World soon. I know that you can go online at the hotels using the in-room data ports. What I'd like to know is whether there's a place on site where you can log onto a computer and go online. Is there anything like this at Coronado, the convention hotel? I'd like to check web-based email, but would like to avoid logging the laptop and trying to figure out how to set up the computer.
Yeah, the convention center at Coronado Springs does have computers available for internet access use. There's an hourly fee, and if I recall correctly, the fee was like, it wasn't cheap. It was like $15 or $25 an hour. But if you're just getting in and getting out, or you're checking email, it shouldn't be too bad. Actually, the one time I used it, they didn't even charge me for it, and you should be fine there. The hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday for the convention center, and then 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays. So that should do it.
Chris Ustra of Gaithersburg, Maryland writes, any ideas on the future attractions creation at Walt Disney World? The past 5 years has seen a flurry of activity, starting with Mission Space and Mickey's PhilharMagic, leading through all of the great 50th celebrations attractions like Soarin', and Expedition Everett's, and Lights, Motors, Action, and even the new Winnie the Pooh Playground. But now there are not even rumors of new rides, besides Stitch maybe not living long and Wonders of Life and Timekeeper supposedly closing for good. Are things on hold until John Lasseter has time to get settled? Is there anything on the drawing board for us to look forward to besides the new show replacing Tarzan Rocks? I love your podcast. They make long drives shorter. So, what's coming soon?
That's a great question because we were all thinking the same thing. I haven't heard of.
Rumors have been really scarce, Lon. The one rumor I've heard, I tend to focus more on the studios. Surprise, surprise. And I've heard, the latest rumor I've heard for the studios is the area where the ABC Theater and the Sounds Dangerous Theater are to be removed, and a new attraction would be in that area over there.
Wow.
That's the last. That's the only rumor I've heard, other than like the perpetual Indiana Jones from Disneyland is coming. But I wouldn't really put any faith in that rumor.
What about that? What about the Monsters roller coaster, Matt?
I haven't heard anything about it coming to Disney World. I know that it opened up in Disneyland, but I haven't heard anything about where or when. Have you heard anything, Mike?
Well, the only thing I heard, I heard from several cast members last October. I was down in October, and several cast members had said they heard that there is on the drawing board a potential outdoor roller coaster attraction that will span from Mama Melrose all the way to where the Lights, Motors, Action stunt show is in MGM, and it will be based on Monsters Incorporated. But
the only problem I have with that rumor is that there's no land back there. If you go to Lights, Motors, Action, you'll see that beyond the two trees that separate Lights, Motors, Action Stadium, there's the road that brings you into the main entrance of the studios.
Yep.
There's really not a whole lot of land over there, but I believe Jim Hill mentioned, I don't know where I read it somewhere, I think it was Jim Hill, who said that the original plans for the studios was to build a walkway across that road, and there would be an expansion in that area. But of course, I mean, these are, like, I don't know. These rumors aren't that credible, I would think. But that's interesting that you heard about Monsters Inc. in that particular area, Mike. Any other rumors around Walt Disney World that we've heard?
What about Star Wars 2? I've been hearing about that.
Yeah, last I heard about...
Star Tours 2, I should say.
Yes. Last I heard about that was Lucas was actually at Star Tours not too long ago, sometime late last year. And the last rumor was after the movies were done, which they are, that he would have time to focus on them. But I have not heard anything fairly recently, other than that it's coming, quote unquote.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything about anything new. It's a good question.
Well, our next question comes from Mike Friedrichs of Warsaw, India, who writes, "We are planning a Disney trip in late March, and our daughter turns 3 years old in early March, and are hoping we can sneak her in still as a 2-year-old. How strict is Disney about requiring or requesting a toddler to still have a ticket? We will be staying off-site, so we do not need to have any other reason to disclose her age. Any likelihood they will ask for ID for her? We've been to Walt Disney World with her 5 times already and never had to been questioned, but we really don't want to be at the gate and then be told we need to provide her age, prove her age, rather."
Wow, good question. Is she tall for her age? Is she small for her age? I don't know.
In my experience, my father always tried to sneak us in, claiming that we were still a child when we were about 18. I think if you try to sneak her in 1 year, it's not going to be the end of the world. I don't think anyone's going to really say anything to you. Between the difference between a 2 and a 3-year-old, I'm not sure how noticeable it is. And if you just say that they're a 2-year-old, they're not going to call you out on it, I don't think. Len, do you have any experience with this?
Yeah, I'm not sure I like the question.
There's ethical values, which is a whole totally different question altogether.
I don't think they're going to ask you for a birth certificate or anything like that, but I don't know. If the money's that tight, I don't know. They probably won't ask you, but I'm not comfortable giving advice on it.
Sure. Well, let's move on to our next question from Scott from Cincinnati, who writes, "I'm a long-time Disney World vacation goer and former cast member. I've never utilized a travel agent before, but I'm considering it for a trip next December. Can you tell me a little how a typical travel agent is structured? Do they get paid by Disney, or would a fee come from me? Do they just coordinate, or does payment go through them, etc.? What is the upside of going through an agent? I know Walt Disney World pretty much backwards and forwards, so they couldn't help much on the planning side, but do they get better financial deals than someone booking through the Walt Disney World website could?"
Yeah. I think most of us use Sue, right?
Yep.
Yeah, most of
I
us
use
use Small World Vacation, so I'll use Sue as an example. But again, there are other very good travel agents out there. Generally, when we book through Sue, she'll go out and look for the best deals for us, and keep going back and looking when new discounts come out to see whether she can beat any deal we already have. So, for example, if she's got us booked somewhere at $200 a night, let's say, and a new deal comes out, she'll look to see whether any of those new discounts can beat the $200 a night that we've already been booked at. And if so, she'll rebook us automatically. I know the first time that I took my family down there, or took my daughter down, she rebooked us at the Polynesian 7 times because there were that many discounts available, and we ended up saving like $2,100 or $2,200.
Wow.
On the trip overall. It was great. So that's the one thing that the travel agents will do in terms of deals that you probably won't do. The other question was, who pays them? Generally, they get paid by commission from Disney, so you would not pay most travel agents. I do know there are some fee-based travel agents out there, but generally the ones that we recommend here, you're not paying anything to. They're getting paid by commission.
They get paid by the company.
Disney generally commissions the agents. I think it's like 2 to 15% of the sale, depending on what it is they're selling.
Okay. So it's not like there's a fee passed on to the.
No. It's between Disney and the agent. So you're not going to pay more by going through a travel agent. The other thing is and this is something that comes with relationships. But every travel agent I've ever had, the more you work with them, the better the customer you are to them, the more they will work for you to find deals. So, for example, I've been with Sue for a while, and with my other travel agent. If there's a deal that's coming out Sunday morning, and they have access to the deals Saturday night, for whatever reason, I would not be surprised if some of the better clients did not get first chance at the first deals that came out. I don't think that should surprise anyone.
Also, Len, you should also mention that the reason why that's important is because there are only X amount of rooms at any given resort at a certain price level. Is that right?
That's right. Good point.
So that's why it's important to be higher on the list and get in first.
It's important to be a good customer, right? A regular customer.
Exactly. Well, our next question comes from Martin McIntosh, who writes, greetings from Orange County, California. I am a longtime Disneyland annual pass holder and am making my first trip to Orlando in July. I know. Why July? Well, that's when I could get vacation. So as this is probably one of the worst times of the year to go. So as this is probably one of the worst times of the year to go, I need your help. According to the unofficial guide, parks with extra magic hours are the worst ones to go to. This seems against my logic since everyone else has to leave, but we get to stay. How many people do the resorts hold? What kind of percentage do resort guests make up on a typical day? Could you expand on the reason to avoid extra magic park hours?
Boy, that's a good question. Last time I checked, what did they have? I want to say Len probably has a better idea on this. 25,000 rooms on site?
Between 25 and 30,000. I think it's closer to 30 now.
25 and 30. I think I don't completely agree with the unofficial guide regarding the extra magic hours. I will say that that I think the extra magic hours mornings are worth it for the first 90 minutes, and then after that, I would say get out of the park. Just because it does the extra magic hour does swell the parks because it does draw in the resort guests. But I would say first 90 minutes shouldn't be too bad. The extra magic hour evenings, I totally agree that they're just a waste of time. That's my 2 cents.
No,
I totally avoid an extra magic hour, especially in the summertime, especially July, August. I totally avoid it.
Yeah, I mean, here's what we were thinking and first of all, Martin, thanks for reading the book. But in terms of extra magic hours in the morning, what we're trying to get people to do is, by not recommending them in general, is to avoid the time it takes to go between parks if you're going to park hop. So, for example, we wouldn't tell you to go to an extra magic hour park in the morning and then park hop somewhere else because of the transportation times involved. It's usually an hour or 2 hours, depending on how you're going and what park you're going to, in transportation time. And since you're paying for park admission for the entire day, that's 2 hours or 1 hour that you've paid for admission somewhere that you're not using. That's the main reason why we don't recommend it, that and the crowds. In terms of, though, if you want to utilize extra magic hours, I think the scope is right that mornings are your better option. And I think the reason for this is that more people are able to stay up late than get up early.
Right.
So you'll find, for example, if you're trying to do like a comprehensive tour of the Magic Kingdom, and you're following the unofficial guide's touring plans, and you do a Magic Kingdom early morning, extra magic hour morning, you'll save about an hour of standing in line by utilizing that extra hour before the park opens to regular guests. At Epcot, you gain a little bit less. At the studios, it's roughly break even in the mornings, and at the Animal Kingdom, you'll actually end up waiting in line longer if you try and use the touring plans during an extra magic hour morning. And the reason for that is there aren't that many rides open at the Animal Kingdom, and the capacities of those rides is relatively small, so the number of people who go overwhelm the rides. But it's if you're going to if you want to use a morning, Magic Kingdom's great, Epcot's really not bad. Studios, depends on what you're going on, but roughly break even from there. In terms of the evening extra magic hours, I like Epcot because Epcot's cool. You could probably get in a few extra rides at the Magic Kingdom at night. I like Splash Mountain and Big Thunder Mountain and Frontierland, maybe Space Mountain. The lines are still kind of long there. I like the Animal Kingdom because of the way it looks at night too, but I don't think there's anything there at night that you can do during the day.
Len, did you justify going to Epcot extra magic hours evening because it's cool?
Because it's cool.
That's the scientific reason that your researchers have come up with.
No, that was my personal opinion. I mean,
All right, I'm just.
Yeah, I know. No, I mean, really, you don't have to twist my arm to go to Epcot. In terms of the weights are still pretty long. I mean, Scopa and I were there. It was like 2 hours on into an evening extra magic hour at Epcot, and the line for Soarin' was still an hour.
Yep.
Like, Jesus, people, it's not that good. It's a good ride and all, but it's 11 o'clock at night. Go to bed. You should not be waiting for an hour to ride Soarin' at 11 o'clock. So that's just crazy there.
Great. Well, that's it for us today. This has been episode number 62 of Walt Disney World Today. If you want to find older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the Walt Disney World Today website at www.wdwtoday.com. You can also email us at questions@wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, and Mike Newell, I'm Matt Hotchberg. We'll see you on the next show.